Hello everyone, welcome to another podcast. So I guess recently I've been talking about things I've learned about mental health just throughout my life. And following along this theme, I guess, today I want to talk about self-talk. It's something that I feel gets sort of overlooked sometimes, especially when you're kind of stuck in your depression or anxiety or something. I feel like this is something that's extremely important, and it plays a big role in you getting better or worse. When I was worse, at one of my worst states mentally, I remember the kind of self-talk I used to practice, I guess. I remember the kind of self-talk that I used to do. It used to be a lot of basically me putting myself down constantly all the time. And I think I've kind of mentioned quite a bit of this in some of my previous podcasts. So I'd constantly tell myself that I'm worse than other people. I'm too ugly for this. I'm too fat for this. I'm too whatever. I'm just anything negative I can think of myself. I'd be constantly telling myself that. And anytime I wanted to try something, anytime I wanted to do something, I'd be like, you don't have enough. You don't have friends. You don't have this. You want to do this, but you want to wear this, but you're too fat for it. You want to do this, but you're too ugly for that. And I'm constantly telling myself this. And the more you tell yourself these things, the more you tend to believe them. And it kind of when it comes to appearance, it's this thing where it's you will keep telling yourself these things, and it starts off as just words, but it eventually gets to a point where you start seeing them on yourself. One day you start telling yourself you're ugly, and you keep telling yourself that you're ugly, and then eventually it gets to a point where you look in the mirror and what you see is ugly. And it's horrible to do this to yourself. I had so many lies that I used to believe about myself, and no matter what people tell me, no matter what, I could never ever believe that anything that anyone says, any compliments that people gave me. It got to a point where I would believe this inner voice more than anything anyone ever said to me. So if I had someone, saying some really nice things to me, I would find it really hard to accept their compliments because I had this really bad negative image of myself, and that was what I considered the reality. So anything else was just fake. They're trying to get something from me, or they're just trying to be nice, they're just trying to do this, they're just trying to do that. And I started, my self-talk started becoming about them too, because I was trying to convince myself that they were wrong, they were lying, and the stuff that I'm telling myself is what was right. And it was not right, but I constantly kept telling myself that, and eventually got to a point where I was believing it too. And this is something that it definitely took a long time to break and to learn, and I do think I'm still suffering from it. I do think I do still deal with negative self-talk, but I'm nowhere near as bad as I used to be years and years ago. Now, I feel like I'm at a point where I try to, if I do have some negative thoughts, I try to push them away as much as I can. What I try to do most is try to say more positive things, even if I feel like it's really not true or something. I still try to tell myself those things. For example, if I feel there's something I really can't do, I don't have the skills to do it, I haven't even learned the skills on how to do it, I still keep telling myself that I can do it. Because this is actually something that I don't know where I heard it, but wherever I heard it, it blew my mind. Basically, what I've come to realize is that I have nothing to gain from trying to do things, but I have everything to lose from convincing myself not to do them. And that's something that I've been trying to live by, because I every time I look back on my life, I realize that I missed out on so many opportunities. I missed out on making certain friends. So many things have just been gone in my life. So many opportunities because of me telling myself that I am not good enough for those opportunities. And I don't want to go through that anymore. It's It's horrible. So, just like this, on the flip side, positive self-talk can have a very similar effect, but in the opposite direction. And it's something that I've been practicing, and I've experienced it doing amazing things. Constantly telling yourself positive things, even if you don't believe them, you have to keep on telling yourself these things, because eventually they will get like ingrained in you and you will start to see them. Just like how you started to see these negative things, you started to see yourself as your worst self. If you keep saying positive things, you'll eventually start to see positive things. So what I usually suggest is, because sometimes it's hard to just like completely stop like finding negative things, like especially when you're like really deep in it. So what I try to do is, like, for every negative thing that you find, try to find 2 positive things. And you know, it's like it's not that easy, but it's a start. And I try, you know, sometimes, especially like when it comes to art, because every time I'm like teaching someone art, I remember when I used to be very like negative and overly self-critical, and I feel like pretty much every beginner artist is so extremely critical of their art. And I try to tell pretty much anyone, every time they show me like, oh, it's really bad or it sucks, I tell them, like, instead of telling me that it sucks, show it to me, but tell me the things that you think you did well on it. And instead of finding things that you don't like about it, change the wording of it to things that you will improve on in your next drawing. And I feel like changing the wordings of things in your head and when you speak out loud, it makes a massive difference. So that's also like how I feel when it comes to self-talk, just about yourself. Instead of finding things that you hate about yourself, you know, a lot of things we can change. If it's something that you can't change, then you have to find a way to change how you feel about it and embrace that thing. But then there are things that you can change. So if you don't like your hair, you know, you can get a haircut. So think of it as like, how can you things that you want to improve about yourself. You know, if you feel like you don't like the weight that you're at, this is something that I struggled a lot with, and this isn't easier said than done, of course, but you can change it by losing weight. And this is like a whole nother thing to get into. I'm planning to eventually make a video about my way of losing weight, because I have lost a lot of weight in my life. I used to be very overweight, but I'll do that. I'm not gonna do that in this video. I'll do that sometime in the future. But there are things, I feel like most things we can change about ourselves. You know, just take things one at a time. Try to stop telling yourself about things that you hate about yourself, but try to really, you know, sort of look to yourself a bit more gently. Because I feel like for the most part, you wouldn't look at other people and be like, oh, they suck, they're so ugly, they're so this, they're so that, they can't do this. I feel like you're generally a lot nicer to other people than you are on yourself. Try to have a similar approach to yourself. I think try to stop seeing yourself as like something that's broken and can't be fixed, that's beyond repair. I feel like for the most part, as people, we're all broken in some way, but we can all be fixed, and we're always going to get broken even more in the future, but we can always be fixed in different ways as well. So I think stop seeing yourself as a lost cause, and stop convincing yourself that you're a lost cause with this self-talk. Keep trying to remind yourself that, you know, you may not be feeling okay now, but that's okay, and you can improve, you can get better. You just have to give yourself time to heal, and don't give yourself a hard time for needing time to heal. You know, really just give yourself that space and time that you need, and don't put yourself down for this fact that you do need this. I hope that none of you are going through really bad negative self-talk these days. I feel like it's really common these days, especially with the problem of social media. You know, we tend to compare ourselves to other people a lot and tell ourselves things. You know, that's fake. Like we all try to like make our posts look as good as possible, and we try to avoid posting all the bad stuff. Remind yourself of that. You look at the stuff that you post yourself. We all post stuff to make ourselves look our best online. Just try to be kinder to yourself. Say nicer things to yourself. Try to look at yourself as a work in progress, not as a finished, completed disaster or something. None of us is that. None of us are that. I don't know. I'm losing my English. But yeah, you're a work in progress. You will get there and you will be fine. Just don't give up on yourself. I always feel a bit emotional at the end of these when I start like getting to the advice sort of part. Anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching as usual, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.